Hello, everyone. My name is Ariel White. I am a medical legal advocate with Call for Help. I have a Title IX emphasis, and today that is what I get the chance to give you all a webinar on. Before I go into this webinar, I would like to preface with a couple of things. One, I am a mom to two very young kids and two crazy dogs. So if you happen to hear any noises in the background, please just bear with me. I will try to minimize those as much as possible, but sometimes it's unavoidable. I also live by the airport, so that may be something that also factors in. And then I would like to preface that I am not a lawyer. I can't certify compliance. Your best bet is always or may always be a lawyer. However, I do have a good deal of experience when it comes to Title IX. So I am excited to be here and do this webinar and to have shared information with you all so far, such as our short video from CNN on what Title IX is. Today we are going to cover all of those things on the right-hand side of your screen. The what is it, the who, what does it apply to, etc. There is a lot of information, and this is by no means all of the information. If you would like more information, if you have questions, you are always welcome to message us, call us. However, I will get to more of that later. So let's get going. So what is Title IX? Title IX states that no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Essentially, it's a federal law that prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex. Originally, Title IX was designed to eliminate discrimination in sports, so to allow women to participate in sports and to have equality in sports. However, Title IX now applies to all areas of education in schools that are receiving financial assistance from the federal government. Who or what does Title IX apply to? So as I said, all educational institutions that receive federal financial assistance are obligated to comply with Title IX. That includes K through 12 schools, colleges, universities, and any private schools who receive federal funding. During this COVID-19 pandemic, that would also apply to private schools who received Paycheck Protection loan money from the Small Business Association at the federal level. They must also be in compliance with Title IX. So bottom line, that is most schools. Most schools are obligated to be in compliance with Title IX. Who does Title IX protect? Title IX protects students, faculty, and staff. So in short, students and any employee of the educational institution, whether that's a K through 12 school or that's a college or a university, it applies to students and employees. It protects against what again? Title IX protects against a lot. So it also mandates a lot. Some of the things are sexual violence, such as sexual harassment, sexual assault, sexual abuse, rape, interpersonal violence, such as domestic violence or dating violence, my apologies, stalking. Quid pro quo is sort of a stipulation deal. For example, if you perform this sexual act, I'll give you an A on this really big test. So that is not allowed. That is one of the things that Title IX protects against. It also mandates that there must be equality in sports. We'll get to that a little bit more in detail in a bit. It also covers discrimination based on pregnancy or parenting. There are certain things that schools must allow for pregnant or parenting students. And there's a few more things, but like I said, this webinar is not designed to be all inclusive. It's just a very general overview. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to some of the resources that we'll have later, including us here at Call for Help. My job in particular is focusing on the sexual violence, interpersonal violence, and stalking and quid pro quo aspects of Title IX because I'm in the Sexual Assault Victims Care Unit at Call for Help. So I'm a little bit more knowledgeable about those areas versus the others, but that doesn't mean that I can't find out. There are a lot of myths around Title IX. Some people, when you mention Title IX, they get really angry, sort of up in arms, very upset. And so we are going to go over some of these myths and we are going to set them straight with the facts. I am going to go over 5 of the biggest ones that I have come across in my experience with Title IX. So here we go. Myth number 1, Title IX only applies to sports. This is not true. Even if your school doesn't have any sports, if they're an educational institution and they have students and faculty, if they receive federal financial assistance, they are obligated to comply with Title IX. Title IX does not only apply to sports. The regulations of Title IX cover all educational and extracurricular activities and other school programs. It's intended to create equivalence and eradicate discrimination across all sectors in education. And like I said earlier, it protects students, faculty, and staff. So in short, students and any employee. It also extends to employees, like I said. So not just to students. Myth number 2, Title IX only applies to discrimination against women. Also not true. My apologies, it's my daughter. I have locked myself in another room and she is not happy about that. Schools are obligated to respond to any and all allegations and complaints about sex and gender discrimination that fall under the definition of Title IX. So that includes a number of populations, including men, women, folks in the LGBTQ plus community. Okay, so any and all allegations and complaints about sex and gender discrimination that fall under the definition of Title IX. All students or employees have the right to speak up if they're excluded from programs or activities or discriminated against within those programs, regardless of the sex, the gender of the complainant, the alleged offender, or both. So regardless of sex or gender, everyone has the right to speak up if they feel they've been excluded. Myth number 3, men's athletic programs are cut so that women have more opportunities. This is not true. Title IX does not require federally funded schools to cut men's sports programs to increase opportunities for women. As long as the school is complying with Title IX regulations, schools factor a number of things individually and make decisions on an individual basis. So if they maintain gender equity, such as equality for the facilities, if the facilities are up to the same par, if, say the men's baseball team and the women's softball team are getting equal practice time in said facility, the schools may adjust their athletic programs as they see fit for a bunch of different reasons. So Title IX does not mandate that men's athletic programs are cut so that women can have more opportunities. Like I said, this law it's a federal civil rights law that is designed to create equality among all genders and all sexes. So across all facets of education. So this law is extremely important. Myth number 4, Title IX mandates quotas. This one was probably one of the more funny ones to me. But that's because I have a lot of knowledge in Title IX. For anyone who doesn't have knowledge in Title IX, that might be something that they think, and that's perfectly okay. We're going to bust that myth right now. There are no quota requirements. Title IX does require schools who receive federal financial assistance to provide equal opportunities for everyone, and that does include athletics. There are no quotas. There are no quotas. Okay. Myth number 5, last and final myth here. Title IX requires all programs to be co-ed. This is not true, as with the other 4 myths that we've gone over. Lame joke, sorry. Title IX does allow for single-sex educational opportunities, activities, and programs in certain categories. So that includes athletic teams, fraternities and sororities, religious schools, traditional, all sex colleges. Sports programs can be gender specific. So the example I gave just a minute ago was a men's baseball team and a women's softball team. So they can be gender specific. Sports programs are not required to be co-ed. However, schools have to identify how many athletic opportunities that they offer to each sex and make sure that the percentage of the participants are comparable. So they have the ability to make those decisions. If there is demand for a women's softball team or demand for another male team, for example, schools can adjust for that as long as they are following the requirements in Title IX. So sports programs can be gender specific. Educational opportunity programs can be sex specific. All sex colleges can be sex specific. Title IX does not require everything to be co-ed, but they must be equal. That is the bottom line. Things can be sex specific, but they must be equal. Okay, reporting and complaints. There is a difference between a report versus a formal complaint. A report does not initiate the student conduct process. It's not unlike going to the police department and filing a report. For example, if you go to file a report on, somebody stealing your bike, that may or may not trigger an investigation. This goes for the same in Title IX. Making a report does not necessarily mean that a student conduct process will be initiated. However, a formal complaint does initiate the student conduct process unless someone says that they would like for it not to be, in which case it sort of backs off. Who can make a report? Anyone can make a report. However, to file a formal complaint, there are some requirements. Any student or employee of the educational institution can file a formal complaint, but they must be participating or attempting to participate in the school's educational program or activity at the time of filing the complaint. With the new Title IX regulations that just came down from the Department of Education, that means a number of different things. There With these requirements, there are a number of different things that will be excluded. I don't want to get into all of that information right now because that is a ton of information to throw at you all. And when I first learned all of this information, it was a 3-hour webinar, and I do not want to keep you all here for that long. So if you have any other questions, what's excluded, what quote unquote counts and what doesn't, I would be happy to answer those. And we also have some other resources more towards the end of this webinar, so stay with me. Who do I report to? This depends. It will vary by school. Generally, any employee of a K through 12 school. At colleges or universities in general, that would be a dean for students, a Title IX coordinator for anyone, or a supervisor for employees. For students in Illinois, a confidential advisor may be able to help you figure that out, who you could report to if you want to report at all. In Illinois, a confidential advisor is not required to report to Title IX, so they're a good person to talk to if you would just like to know your options, you don't want it to go anywhere, and you don't want anyone to know. How do I report? There are a number of different ways that you can do that. You can do that in person, by mail, by phone, by email, or by any other means that results in the Title IX coordinator receiving a verbal or a written report. Your school would typically outline which ways you can do that. Title IX does now mandate that all of those things be available in person, by mail, by phone, by email, or any other means that your school details, as long as it means that the Title IX coordinator receives a verbal or written report. When can you report? You can report at any time, day or night, during, before, after school hours, business hours, etc., using the contact information for your Title IX coordinator. Your school is required by Title IX to have the Title IX coordinator's contact information prominently displayed on their website. If you cannot find it on their website, they are in violation. It must be there on their website where you can find it. The Title IX process is not unlike any other process, such as a law enforcement investigation or a court proceeding. It can be long and drawn out. The new regulations for Title IX do not stipulate an X amount of day process, something that our formal Title IX requirements did. So schools are now required individually to decide what is a reasonable time frame, which could mean that some of these cases now would go on a lot longer than before. So that's just a heads up. There are a number of things in the new process that advocates such as myself and advocates at other organizations are extremely worried about when it comes to sexual assault survivors. Details on the new requirements and things can be obtained from just about anywhere on the internet. We are happy to provide those as well as the other resources that I'll list later. I'm going to go over the process in general very, very briefly in just a moment, with the preface that there is a lot more to this process than I can reasonably explain in a reasonable time frame to keep your attention and keep you engaged and to make this webinar worth your while. So again, feel free to reach out with any other questions to us or any of the other resources that I'll detail here in a bit. in general, the process goes a little bit like this on your screen. The filing of the formal complaint or report happens first. Whether you file a report or a complaint, a formal complaint, your school should offer you supportive measures. That could mean changing classes, changing your dorm room. If necessary, an emergency hearing could happen for the removal of the alleged violator. There are a number of other supportive measures that could be offered to someone who is filing a Title IX report or complaint. But regardless of which you file, your school should detail what supportive measures it has available to you. If a formal complaint is filed, your school will decide based on definitions under Title IX and requirements under Title IX if that conduct meets the definition of Title IX. If yes, your school will conduct an investigation with your permission. This may include evidence gathering, interviews. New Title IX regulations do mandate a live hearing for colleges and universities. That is optional for K through 12 schools. Or the parties involved could choose to go through an informal resolution. The requirements for an informal resolution are a little bit more detailed than I want to get into here. Students are, the school is not allowed to mandate for admission and things like that you agree to a formal resolution if anything ever happens. That is not allowed. And informal resolutions are not allowed when it comes to student versus employee or faculty or staff situation, Title IX situation. So if something were to happen, say a quid pro quo situation were to happen at a college or a university, an informal resolution could not be used there. If a formal investigation is done, then the school makes a determination as to whether or not the conduct was violated using an evidentiary standard. The evidentiary standard, my apologies, will either be clear and convincing or preponderance of the evidence. Clear and convincing is self-explanatory. Preponderance of the evidence just means more likely than not that something occurred. Schools are, under the new Title IX, currently allowed to choose which standard they are allowed to use. However, they must use that standard across the board. So if they are going to use that standard for student conduct processes, then they also need to use that same standard for their faculty, staff, employees. So they are allowed to choose. We are hoping that schools will choose preponderance of the evidence. That is the one that advocates for sexual assault survivors are hoping for. And that would be more of what we refer to as a ceiling. It's a better practice versus the floor, which would just mean like this is a practice that you're mandated to do. Schools are absolutely, with the new Title IX regulations, allowed to go above and beyond the new regulations, and we are absolutely hoping that schools choose to do that with the best interest of their students in mind. Where can you find more information? There's a ton of information on this screen, so I'm going to just ramble for a little bit because this screen is extremely important. If there's any information on this screen that you are interested in, please feel free to pause the webinar and write it down. Take a screenshot, take a picture with your phone, whatever you may need. On campus, your Title IX coordinator is your best bet when it comes to information on Title IX. They are the person who is expected to keep the school in compliance with Title IX. They are the expert in Title IX. That is your best bet. However, if you're not comfortable talking with the Title IX coordinator initially, you can talk with other folks, such as a confidential advisor. I mentioned the confidential advisor earlier in the webinar. If your school has one, Illinois college students, your school is required to have a confidential advisor. Other students who may be outside of Illinois, your school may or may not have a confidential advisor. Again, that's somebody that you can talk to who's not obligated to report to Title IX. They're not obligated to talk to the school at all if you don't want. They don't have to say anything. No one even has to know that you went to go talk to them. It may look different. They may have a different sort of support piece, but somebody like that may be able to help. For K through 12 schools, parents, students who may be involved in K through 12 schools, the building principal is typically the building level Title IX coordinator. The superintendent up until now has also been the Title IX coordinator. That may or may not change with the new regulations. But in general, you could speak with your building principal or the superintendent. They should be knowledgeable in Title IX. Your school's counseling or social work department may or may not also be familiar with Title IX. If they're not, they should be able to find the answers. So that is also someone else that you can talk to, though, as far as your on-campus support pieces. Off-campus or online. Your local rape crisis center, if there is one near you, should reasonably have some information. Some may not. Not all rape crisis centers are participating in Title IX advocacy. Some of them are not familiar with it. Some of them are just starting in Title IX advocacy. K through 12 Title IX advocacy is something that is relatively new for a lot of us. It can be a gigantic mess sometimes because a lot of K through 12 schools are not aware that they have to be in compliance with Title IX, or they just don't know how to do it. So your local rape crisis center may or may not have some more information for you. Know Your 9 is an organization typically aimed more towards youth and advocating for Title IX on that level. They do have some resources for college and K through 12. KnowYour9.org. It's the Roman numeral number 9. KnowYour9.org. They're about midway through your screen. They have a ton of information. Stop Sexual Assault in Schools is an organization based out of Oregon, if I remember correctly, and they focus primarily on K through 12 schools. They also have a lot of information. They have been a part of a number of high-profile OCR Title IX violation cases. I will get to that in a moment. Call for help. Again, that is where I work. For our Illinois folks or anyone who is looking for general information, you are more than welcome to call. We are experienced in college and K through 12 Title IX advocacy. So our 24/7 365 number is there right under Stop Sexual Assault in Schools, 618-397-0975. Again, that's 24/7 365. And then for more information, or if you are an administrator or someone who knows an administrator, someone who is involved in the Title IX process, and you're looking for training, there are a number of new training requirements under the new Title IX regulations. The Association for Title IX Administrators, colloquially known as ATICSA, is a wonderful organization. They have some paid resources, they have paid memberships, they also have free resources to an extent that we have found extremely helpful. Again, you can contact us here at Call for Help, or at the very bottom of your screen there, you will see a web address there. That is the OCR blog. The OCR is the Office for Civil Rights, and they are the federal part of the government who oversees Title IX. They have a rolling blog that is providing some insight on certain aspects of Title IX. It's very helpful for anyone, really, not just those who are looking for training or Title IX administrators. It's a good spot for anybody to go to for more information. Also, the OCR, because they oversee Title IX and Title IX compliance, if you feel that your school has violated your Title IX rights, you should first take that up with your school, but you also have the ability to take that up with OCR. That would be filing a Title IX complaint with the Office for Civil Rights. That it typically needs to be done within 180 days of the last violation of Title IX rights. However, if it's not done within 180 days, there is a way that you can apply for a waiver in which you could state why you didn't seek the complaint within the 180 days. And then if OCR will look at it and they will decide if that's something that they will take on. So in essence, if the school did violate Title IX rights, etc. So they are the overarching, overseeing entity for Title IX, apart from the Department of Education. The Department of Education is implementing Title IX. The Office for Civil Rights oversees Title IX and focuses on the compliance for Title IX. So that is all that I have for you all today. I do believe. Yes, it is. And I genuinely hope that this was as general as it was, that this was a webinar that was good for you all. I'm going to go back to this more information screen here so that you can have it. I genuinely hope that in general, this webinar was helpful for you all. If you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to any of those places. As far as more questions go, these places are as good, if not better. I have received a lot of my training from many of these places. So feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. If you would like to receive some of our services, counseling, advocacy for Title IX, if you are in Monroe, Randolph, St. Clair, Jersey, I'm forgetting one more. We have 5 counties in Illinois. Please feel free to reach out to us for more information on that, for Title IX advocacy for colleges in those counties. And beyond that, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for tuning in with me. I know even in a general sense that this was a lot of information. It's a lot to take in. I hope that you all never have to deal with a Title IX situation, but if you do, we are here and we are ready and we are willing to help. Please feel free to reach out to any one of those other resources on your screen. Thank you all again so much for tuning in, and I will see you all on Friday when we wrap up all information together. Be on the lookout for Cheyenne. She will post a poll question based on this webinar. Feel free to answer that, leave a comment, etc. Tell us how we did, and we will see you all on Friday. Thank you very much. You all have a great day.